Thank you for tuning into the Stampscapes channel. This is a fun scene. I keep saying that, but hey, what scene isn't fun? When it's something new, too, it's kind of that little bit of an extra bonus there. So I've been doing all these scenes lately on a lot of black paper using white pigment ink, and going into it with some white embellishments over the top of it. I have some more of these folded cards, and I had a packet of blue ones, and I wanted to try this white pigment ink on here, but the thing about going with a grayscale in terms of the darkness of a certain hue, in this case it's blue, is that you can stamp imagery in black and it's going to show up. So one of the things that I've wanted to do for a while, and it's just I've thought about it more over these last few days of doing these dark scenes, is doing something with this lighthouse. I thought, oh man, I think a light beam in this pigment ink over dark cardstocks, I think this is the thing that would be a really killer application for that technique right there. So, just stamping out my lighthouse and rocks and waves stamp down here in black really provided a really fantastic foundation for this. It looks, I mentioned, and if I haven't mentioned it here in the intro, I feel that it has a bit of like a picture book, like a kid's picture book type of feel to it, and just the way that it's been executed. It doesn't look like photographic or anything, but I think it has its own kind of interesting quality to it, with this oscillation of dark imagery and light imagery. Just the embellishments on there and those little dots in the form of those little dots. I didn't use the Dr. Martin's bleed-proof white on this one. I wanted to keep it, simple. I know a lot of you don't have that medium, so I know a lot of you have kind of white gel pens, though. So I used that, and I used, Colorbox pigment ink, which a lot of us have, because a lot of you do embossing, or if you haven't done it for a while, you probably have a pigment ink pad somewhere. If you're a stamper that enjoyed embossing, so I tried to keep with the materials that we had, or that most of us have, okay? Anyways, it's just a load of fun adding that into that space there, and it was as easy a process as can be. And it's just taking a couple pieces of paper, setting them down there, taking your color box, or a sponging applicator, in this case it's this Colorbox stylus tool, inking it up with the pigment ink, and just tapping it right in there around those, those two pieces of paper that were placed there for masking purposes. So I think it's nice and effective, and one of the things that I mentioned in this video as well is I like to see, once in a while, some lighthouse imagery in stamping in a setting in which a lighthouse was kind of, created to do, and that's to be a scene, be somewhere at nighttime with its beam coming out, preventing, ships from crashing onto the rocks or hitting the shoreline and things like that, bringing them into safe harbor. So that's what I wanted to do here, and I mentioned that's why I created this lighthouse to be dark, so you can stamp them out in a daytime scene or a nighttime scene. So this is the first really, I feel, nighttime, light on scene that I've ever done with it, and I really like it. And this technique was just the one to do it. But now that I did this one, I could do this beam on glossy cardstock as well. Alright? And I think I will do that. Before, what I've done is I've put kind of a light up there with a little bit of gel pen, and then I've hit around it with a little bit of a pigment ink to create kind of a glow like that. But I've never had this like real strong beam coming out of it, which is really fun. So Anyways, if you watch this video, I go into it for about a couple segments, and at the end, I apologize for this in advance if you watch this, but I went looking for a couple stamps to do, and I guess I just forgot to hit record when I came back. I was too excited or something like that, so I didn't realize that until I kind of finished the card off down here at the base, so that happens in this video here, and I don't know, I haven't done that for a while, but I did on this one for some reason, so anyway, lighthouse card, front scene, full page scene. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, it seems that the floodgates are open as far as applications and new applications of these stamps for me. I love my old applications for sure, but I'm just kind of tapping into some unexplored territory for me as far as the usages of these stamps go in certain types of media. I'm going to be doing some colored scenes here shortly, but I wanted to see what this white pigment ink would look like on a matte cardstock as a light coming out of this lighthouse. You know, in theory, I don't know, I think that would be kind of neat. What do you think? Now I'm going to do this one on blue. It's a very dark blue paper, but having some less than black paper to work with, it opens up the possibilities of stamping something in a darker color, which would be black again. So I thought I would do that on this one. I think this would look good reversed out as well, but I think I want to do this scene kind of dark, you know, so I'll just use black. Now I'm going to be doing this on a matte cardstock, and I want this image, and this is already, what is this, probably a 80%, you know, in terms of the grayscale, maybe 85. It's fairly dark. I think my Marvy pad would be okay for that, but I think I'm going to go with the Versafine. The Versafine is just stark, you know, black. The memories would probably be okay too. My memories, I think, is, yeah, was this the one? Yeah, my pad's kind of coming off. That pad's like 10 years old or more. I think it's actually more. It's probably more like 12 or 15 years, you know. So that it's coming apart, you know, at this stage in its life after many years of usage, you know, I don't have any problem with. It's been a really great pad. I can still use it, but my Versafine is just a little bit newer. But it's not new. This one's probably 10 years old as well. It's still really loaded with ink, though. Alright, let's see. Now this is a folded 5x7 card, okay? But I think I want to try something with this, you know? We'll be viewing it like this, but then I want there to be this beam of light coming across this, you know, onto this side of the card, the back side of the card, and I thought that would be kind of neat. I guess we could do it for the inside as well. That's another idea too. Boy, do it on the inside. I guess either way, you know, would work for this purpose. I have a loose composition in mind. Let's see what comes of it. Not only am I working on a different surface and reversed out in a lot of these latest scenes, but the format's a little bit larger too, the 5x7. I don't know, from the 4.25 by 5.5 quarter size page to the 5x7, I don't really feel it's too big of a jump, but I don't know, I guess it is opening up some possibilities in terms of the larger format and maybe the placement of larger images, more of them on there. I guess it's been kind of nice. I haven't really thought about it too much, though. Okay, so we have that. That's the difference between, you know, your matte cardstock and your glossy. Things come out, stamp out, lighter in value. Okay, but we're going to work with that aspect of it. Okay. Now this is the Rocks and Waves stamp. And I'm going to overlap and kind of change the angle of this one a little bit, and hopefully this looks like it's in the foreground. I'm holding it down a little bit longer for that ink to transfer. Okay. Going for another impression. Okay. We'll fill this out at the bottom of the composition. And if we are to continue this out to this other side of the page, paper or card, maybe I'll stamp a little bit of this down on this lower portion. About like so. The seam comes into play, but not too bad, okay? So we have a nice seamless, I don't know, it's kind of like a pyramid of these crashing waves and rocks down here. And I think it shows up pretty good on that dark background, you know. All right. Let's take a look and see what we have here in terms of the available space here and kind of what we're about to attempt. All right, now I think what I'm going to do is I think that area in the light portion of the lighthouse, I think I'm going to have to make that pretty white. Should I do it in a gel pen? Let's try it in the gel pen. I might not even have to go to a bleed proof white, although it might be fun, but let's just try this. To make it faster. Yeah, that is nice and white. Okay, there's a couple little windows in the lighthouse on the side of it, and I'll just put that down like it's like there's a light coming from within, probably in a spiral staircase or something like that. Maybe there's rooms, you know, small little rooms lead up to the top of the light. And I will fill in the light with some of this white gel pen. Okay. Isn't that fun looking? And now let's build upon that. Let's see what this will look like. This is going to be interesting. I'm trying to decide. I haven't really thought about it too much, but what I'm going to apply this pigment ink with, I want to apply it with something soft, and it's almost thinking in the back of my mind like a Nerf ball or something like that, like a Nerf basketball, not the football. But what I want to do is I want to kind of create this beam of light emanating from the lighthouse. This is one of the things that, you know, I'm a big fan of all Scenic stamping imagery. And that's not just my own company's line. But there's some companies that kind of, they have a big, huge assortment of things like lighthouses, and I don't know. I don't think I've seen one that I don't like. But a lot of them were kind of, they're daytime images of lighthouses, you know. There's no shadow on them. But I always thought it would be kind of interesting to have, that's why I did mine dark, you know, so that you could stamp it in the daytime as well as nighttime. You know, it had enough shading to it to represent something at night. But a way to go in and have that beam of light coming out of it, I haven't seen too much of that done before, if at all. And I put, like a light, I put like pigment ink around that to make it look like it's glowing, but there hasn't been like a real directed beam of light coming out from too many lighthouse scenes that I've seen before. So let's give it a try, okay? Bear with me here. This is new territory for me, at least. I don't know. Maybe you've seen this, something like this before. Let's go with something like that. I guess like that. Okay, now here's my thoughts. That's going to be the beam of light right there. Boy, that looks weird on this camera. My idea is that it'll be a little bit heavier over here in terms of the opacity, and then I'll kind of diffuse it out here. I don't know if it's going to go all the way across the page, maybe. Here goes. I don't know if I've used pigment ink on with these this Colorbox stylus tool before. I probably have, but I just don't remember doing it. Which isn't to say that it was like a super, super long time ago, as much as I have a bad memory, but let's give it a shot. I don't think it's been any time recent. Alright. Let's see how it goes. It kind of feels like a chalky feeling, which is kind of understandable with this, I don't know, kind of chalky pigment ink. This is a Colorbox Frost White. Okay. All right. Now my Frost White, Colorbox pad right here is fairly dry. Okay. In fact, I'm gonna press into this pad a little bit more to get more ink out. Okay. Now, if anyone you have watched other videos when I'm doing pigment ink, you'll know that I kind of like to start it off in light, like a dry brushing technique. And I like to start with light dabs. I don't want big globs. I don't want big oval shapes like that, so I'm just kind of lightly dabbing it. And when I'm working with color, I usually start swiping from a dark area, and then I swipe into the light area, okay? Now this one, it's reversed. I'm starting in the lighter area, which should be right next to the light, and then I'm working this off into the darker area, okay, where the light is going to dissipate a little bit. So I'm looking at, I think, opaque to translucent to practically transparent by the time it gets over here. Maybe I won't put too much of this ink down on here, okay? Okay, I'm not squeezing this at all when I'm tapping it. I'm just kind of slapping the surface, and let me see what that's looking like. It's looking okay. My trouble is getting it over here before it kind of runs out of ink. Alright, I'm starting it over here in the darker area because I just need more ink. And this pad is pretty dry. It's serving the purpose, though. Having kind of that drier ink. I don't want to, like I said, the worst thing as far as a technique is, you just don't want it to be like a big blob, like a big oval blob of ink down, okay? So if you're doing this, just, you know, if you have a really quite a juicy pad, my other pigment ink pad right here is really wet and juicy. I think I re-inked it at some point in time. So I'm kind of going on the other side of that light as well, just so there's a little bit more of a glow. Okay. Every picture tells a story, so they say. It looks like, I don't know, it has this kind of nice storybooky picture book look to it, you know? Is that a little bit more opaque and then softer out this way? I don't know, I think that's fun looking. Yeah. Alright, now, let's put a little bit more kind of a glowy effect around the light, okay? Taking a cotton swab, blotting it off a little bit. Just, like I said, my pad is kind of dry, but just to make sure I blot it off a little bit, because again, I want to avoid like big blobs of paint, you know. When I say paint, I mean pigment ink, okay? If you want a little bit of a kind of a glowing light around your windows, you could put a little bit of that down as well, around the window. Perhaps it's a bit of a foggy night. Okay. It's subtle, but it's kind of nice, right? Okay, now let's try something here. Let's put some highlights down in these crashing waves, all right? Let's say that there's a little bit of light coming from this beam of light. Okay, I'm making it a little bit more opaque. I want it, that beam of light, to be a little bit stronger, so I'm putting some more pigment ink in there. It seems like I'm able to apply a little bit of it in a slightly thicker build-up here with this cotton swab. I'm kind of making the beam a little bit more irregular too. I don't know, it's a little bit too smooth like that, so you see that, how smooth it is, but then I'm kind of putting in a little bit of touches in there just for a little bit of variation. Okay, let's see it. Now I think this is going to look really weird down here because it is so dark, okay, and I'm usually putting this where there's a little bit of white, you know, in the colored scenes, but I don't know, I'm getting a a little bit more bold with it, maybe, after the past, really this past week. In terms of its usage and where it can be used, I mean, it looked, you know, pretty good on, you know, the darkest thing that you could possibly apply it to, and that's black paper, so I don't know. I'm learning still. I've been doing this a really long time, but I'll tell you, the beauty of artwork, stamping, is that I feel that this is just rubber stamping in general. I think it's the ultimate medium for this day and age as far as just creative expression. Alright? I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm still, you know, and I've realized this. I have a really long way to go, and I've never thought anything less. You know, I've always thought that we can keep pushing the media of scenic stamping, rubber stamping in general, and that has always been the case. But going back to rubber stamping, as far as a hobby these days, it's just you can do a really quick project and come up with a really fantastic result. You can do a hand stamp card for someone or whatever, birthday card, greeting card, get well card, whatever, you know, in short time. But you can also, you know, spend as much time on any given project that you want to, and everything kind of in between. But for me, kind of playing around with a lot of these different techniques over this last week, I mean, you can really go on, you know, some kind of a, like explorative, explorative? Is that a word? You go on a nice, creative, I don't know, exploration, adventure, whatever, in the course of just a few days, where you can learn some things that, you know, that you can always apply then, you know, not just then, but in the future. So I don't know, I've been using a lot of this pigment ink over the years, but I feel like I can use it differently now, like even more free and loosely too. Not that I'm applying it in any kind of tight detail or something like that, it's just not that type of media, but you can really get a lot more liberal with it if you want to, and just, you know, put it, I don't know, over a lot. I still oscillate it so that it kind of stands out, you know, in some ways, here and there, rather than just coating the whole thing. But, I don't know, you can apply it on as dark a paper as you want, and not just where light meets dark on a scene that you've done in color. Alright, so kind of building this up a little bit. See this area right in here? There's some mist and crashing waves, kind of reflecting some of that light coming from the lighthouse, even though the lighthouse isn't shining down there, you know. Inevitably, you know, there's going to be, if there's water especially, you know, a reflective substance like that, you'll see some reflections of that light in the water, especially kind of frothing water. Okay, like so. Alright, now that really stands out pretty good, because it is so dark down there, even though it's subtle in terms of my placement of it, but the fact that it's white on dark makes it stand out, okay? So that's just a real general kind of misty look, but let's go in here and let's add a few kind of real light splashes, okay? There's a lot of splashes in the stamp design in those rocks, okay? See it down there? Like right all around in here. Right in here. So kind of we're reiterating what we see already in the image itself, okay? Now I'm looking at that, and that's really standing out quite a bit. Okay, so I have to be careful. I don't want to add too much of it. But here's the thing. This is a blue piece of paper, and if you've watched some other videos where I've used the Sharpie paint pen, I can do this in blue, and it won't be quite as stark a white highlight down here if I do it in a darker value, and I have this blue one. So let's try the blue. And of course the blue will relate to the color scheme of the scene. Okay. Now, let's see here. I was thinking about putting this sailboat out here. I thought it would kind of provide a nice kind of visual dialogue between the two parts of the card. Let's do it in Versafine. And I'll place it about like so, maybe. Or do I want to go lower? I was thinking about this quote stamp as well. I don't know that this fits in perfectly with the theme of this, but love must be as much a light as it is a flame by Thoreau. I could go over there. Could go over here. I mean, it would be like this, but I'm trying to decide if I want that in there. Maybe down there. I'll put this right here, so I'll leave room for it just in case. Or I'll put it up here, maybe. Okay. Trying to decide if I want that in there or not. I'm not sure. We'll play around with it. But, okay, so we have that down there. And I'm wondering right now if I want some additional tone. I think I do. I think I want to anchor that sailboat down a little bit. So let's use a little bit of black ink. Okay, it's kind of floating in the composition for me a little bit too much right now. I washed out my my stylus tool tips the other day, and I didn't really squeeze them out, but man, this thing is still full of water from like 2 days ago. Okay. Black ink. Alright. Let's see, let me add a little bit of it down here as well. I'm going to give this little area down here a little bit of variation, okay? And I think it'll anchor this kind of cluster down a little bit. That seam there, it's kind of not applying in that seam, but it's really not a big deal. And let's add a little bit of shadow to this. I have this at a bit of an angle, okay, and we're just lightly dabbing it, trying to kind of feather out the surface there so that it looks like it's casting a bit of a shadow, even though this is dark. Okay. Like about like so. Alright, now one thing that I didn't think I was going to have to do, but it looks like it's missing to me without it, is to make some sort of horizon line in here, now that everything's kind of been situated. So let's see what that might look like here. Okay, I'm thinking about trying to decide where that would be. Maybe a little bit higher. Maybe from about here over. Or maybe a little bit lower. I could keep it really symmetrical and, you know, measure this off and go halfway, which could be interesting. But, I don't know, I could also go rule of thirds and kind of keep it, you know, in third. It'd be about like here, 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 here. Okay, so it's about like, no, can't do that. Oh, could go 2/3. Let me see, here, here. It'd be about up here. Could be interesting. Here, here, here. See my super precision measuring instrument like that. Alright, maybe I should measure it. It's going to take me like no time at all. Okay, that's about it's about 4.5 right there. I don't know if that's a third, but I just don't want to have a crooked horizon line. Okay. 4.5, 4.5. Okay, there's our horizon line. So here's how you kind of create that horizon line. Where'd my black pen go? There we go. Okay, now it doesn't have to be super definitive, okay? But I'll start it over here and just lightly dab. Okay, I'm a little bit more concentrated right around that line. Okay, what I mean by the line is the piece of paper, okay? And then what I'm doing is, as I come down, I'm kind of tapping a little bit lighter, so I want it a little bit heavier. Up around the, this masking paper. And it's going to be subtle, I think. Because the paper itself is already fairly dark, so applying this not completely saturated black, it shouldn't show up too strong, but I don't know, we'll see. I could take a peek right now, but let me try to carry this over a little bit more. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's a bit of horizon line. It's funny, it kind of reaches right up into that light. In fact, I think I might have blotted out some of that light, but you see that right there? It provides a little bit of that horizon line in the background, like that. That's all you really need out there. Okay. All right, let's see now. We have these little twinkly lights right here. In terms of the reflection and the crashing waves. Let's play around here a little bit with maybe some stars in the sky. And see, I can take these stars and just go right down to the horizon, so that we have a little bit more of a different texture in the sky, separating it from sea. Although it's kind of fun to put a little bit of a texture into the water as well, in the form of little highlights, like little stars reflecting in the water. Maybe this one's a planet, it's a little bit bigger. Okay. See how that looks. This would be kind of interesting in yellow as well, especially on this blue paper, don't you think? Okay, now it seems like this, a little bit of texture down here in the water wouldn't hurt, but I'm also thinking I might want something here in the foreground, like some branches or something like that on a shoreline looking out there. I feel that this is kind of empty, although I still have this quote, but I'm not sure if I want that or not. Maybe some quote about the stars might be nice. You know, there's a sailboat and you kind of navigate by the starlight. All right. Image and quote hunt. To be done right. Okay, I think I made a major mistake here. And I don't know, for some reason I didn't hit the play button or the record button for this last segment here after I found this branch to use down here. And I used a quote from this Scenic sentiment sheet, number 2, and that's, good friends are like stars, you don't always see them, but you know they're always there. Let me make sure that's focusing there. But anyways, I finished the card. I stamped this out, the bare branch out down here, and then I used the leaf sprig to foliate them with. And I added a few highlights with the use of the gel pen. Added a little bit of that kind of pigment ink around some of these stars here. And that was it. I don't know, maybe it's good for you that you don't have to sit through that entire last segment of it, you know, just kind of adding those things in there. But anyways, what I was saying was I thought that sentiment quote went really well with this scene. It's about stars, and it's about good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they're there. I think this is good because the sailboat there and the lighthouse kind of create that visual dialogue between, or a visual relationship, okay? Because, I mean, this lighthouse was built for the intent of, you know, bringing, you know, ships into safe harbor, to keep them from crashing onto the rocks right there. So, and then we have this beacon of light going out that way, you know, which is kind of, you know, representative of, it could be representative of friendship, okay? And safety and whatnot. I've seen this scene, this lighthouse scene used a lot of times for even sympathy cards, so, I mean, a card like this could be, you know, representative of, you know, a friend that's passed or something like that as well. But, you know, you don't always see them, but you know they're always there. So it could have a meaning like that as well. And I think this would be kind of a nice scene for that purpose like that, you know. A beam of light, you know, which is kind of about really good friends and friendships and whatnot. So, that being said, one of the things that I was mentioning, until I realized, I don't know, I didn't turn on my, hit the record button or something like that, but here we have this card here now. And this is the total composition. We call this like a 2-page spread in illustration. You know, more so if it was like a book like that. But this one's a card, okay? And this folds over like this. But I think in terms of the visual path people take, we have all these little branches down here, okay? And I think we kind of follow up through that into the light, and we come out this way. And that's what's kind of fun about doing a 2-page spread like this, you know? It kind of follows out that way, you know, and there's the beam of light, and then there we see the sailboat, and it's kind of pointing in that direction. But then the viewer can come down here and see this quote down here stamped out in white ink, okay? So in many ways, I think the visual path is something like this, okay? And then your recipient of your card opens it up like that, and then they kind of follow along like this, and it kind of creates this circular pathway, you know, looking at this different types of imagery. And I really like how this came out. I feel it's almost like a, you know, like a kid's picture book in some ways, you know. It has a different spirit to it. And stamping on this, I'm going to say it's about an 80%, in terms of the grayscale. It's blue, but in terms of the darkness of it, it's probably 80%, which opens up the ability to stamp on the paper in black ink, or just a darker version of whatever color this is. For me, I'm going to go all the way to black, you know. I don't want to stamp it in gray because you might not be able to see it very well. But, and then you can also stamp in white for a dramatic effect. So, I don't know, there's something really fun about kind of those, it's not neutrals, but kind of mid-tones, I guess, mid-tone bases. All right. Now, one of the things I'm noticing here was I did kind of cover up a little bit of beam right there with that when I made that horizon line up there. So I think I'm going to do one little tweak here. And I didn't do it in that last segment until I realized I just forgot, I don't know, to hit record or something like that. But so being that you didn't have to sit through that whole kind of last segment there, I'll put a little bit of tone across that horizon line, that darker horizon line that I made, okay, so that the beam isn't kind of chopped off at the end. Okay, so it looks like that right there. Okay. All right, now I can't tell you how much fun that, you know, adding that light beam in there is. I just don't see enough of kind of lighthouses doing their thing in scenes. You know, people have done it. I'm not saying I'm like the first one to do it, but I don't recall seeing something like this on this type of paper. Not that I'm surfing the web looking for, you know, stamped scenes of lighthouses, but we received, you know, quite a few over the years, and there's been some really cool versions at night. But this paper and this pigment ink really allows you to do some fun stuff. I mean, you can aim that beam anywhere you want it to go. You know, you can aim it, I don't know, 2 ways like that if you want to. I don't know, somehow, I don't know, one of you guys can do it, where the beam is kind of aimed at you. What that would look like, I don't know. But I would imagine things in the foreground would be, I don't know, they would be suddenly backlit, so I don't know how to do that. But I think that would look cool as well. But anyways, it's just a really fun, effective scene. And again, you know, when you're doing it like this in a card format, I would also consider, you know, the thing that your viewer is going to look at first, and have that as a kind of a complete scene unto itself. You know, it works as a composition just like that, I think. But then, this is a really great bonus like that, I think. And it's just a fun way to create that sequential aesthetics, you know, from going from one thing and being compelled to turn it because you're following the light beam out, than having something like that, so. Oh boy, sequential aesthetics and cards, you know, doing scenes, fold-out scenes like that, that opens up a whole new type of thing, you know, that you can do. And that's not even including if it's a card, you know, like that. Other thematic things you can add in here, you know, you can add nautical things in here. You know, this quote back here about good friends are like stars, you don't always see them, but you know they're always there. You can do something in theme with that too. You can put something inside here as well. And creating, again, that continuity in terms of visuals you know, that relate to the visuals on the front. Or you can do it thematically, you know. You put a picture of someone or something like that. If you have a really good friend, you could, you know, put that friend, you know, a picture of the two of you together or something like that in there. Whatever you want to do. I mean, it could be as simple as, you know, good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they're always there. You can put a few little white dots in here as well, you know, to represent the stars, and then you can write whatever you want in here, okay, to your recipient. So, but just in terms of the front visuals that we'll do on this card and this video right here, that was just so much fun. I kind of didn't know where it was going to go until I put in that horizon line, and I think it looked kind of barren there, so I put a few of these little dots down here as little sparkles in the water, and I think this foreground imagery in white was nice and effective, added a little bit of depth and kind of a playfulness to that area of the scene, you know, giving it more of a kind of a picture book, storybook type of feel to it, as opposed to something that's supposed to look, you know, super realistic or something like that. Not that it looked super realistic before we put that in there, but even less so and kind of more friendly. And having that white foreground imagery in there really allowed us to stamp out that quote stamp in white ink over here without it kind of being kind of out of place, you know, because over here it was fairly dark. So if you just had that white quote stamp right here, I think it would look okay, but it just looks better with this kind of foreground in white. And I think if I didn't show it, it's the bare branch and the leaf sprig used in conjunction with one another, both in the white pigment ink. So anyways, boy, kind of messed up on that last segment right there. Just jumping forward. Maybe that's for the best, you know, otherwise it runs a little bit too long. Actually, my videos are all really too long, but anyways, if you're one of those that can sit through and bear with me from start to completion on these projects, I hope you enjoyed this one. And sorry about that big leap there at the end, but here is the final result. And just having the time of my stamping life in terms of something new, okay? Not that I'm tired of the old, but these types of things like here are really fun to kind of explore and test out the possibilities of the existing imagery in a just different way. This scene here could look really good too if you did, you know, your tonal backgrounds with a lot of dye-based inks, and then we overlaid that light coming right out from that lighthouse, you know, in such a scene like that. And I think I'll do that again sometime. Maybe on one of my next few videos I'll create some more variation in here and some, you know, a brighter surface, but just employ that use of the pigment ink over the top of it like that. And I think that would be fun. So thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for watching the channel as always.